There may be an opportunity to approach your boss's boss or get HR involved. But please understand, this strategy also does not come without risk.
Yes.
It goes back to how easy or difficult is it to replace you. If you're difficult to replace, then the boss's boss will listen, or the chances that they will listen are greater. HR will listen. But if that's not the case, you will not be heard and you will feel even more compromised, and you may start getting bitter towards all opportunities. Your career is like a living, breathing organism, and building great careers requires nurturing them with strategic guidance. Hi, my name is Sawan Kapoor, and I'm India's leading career coach, also known as the Career Guy. Welcome to the Career Headquarters. The most comprehensive career podcast on the internet, where I will bring you groundbreaking insights on everything career related. Whether you're seeking a career abroad or wanting to switch industries, whether you are entry level or a mid-career professional or a senior leader, I have seen it all. As an award-winning CEO of one of the largest and most profitable beverage alcohol companies, my career spanned 3 continents, multiple industries, and provided me with an accelerated roadmap to the very top. So if you want to build an exceptional career and 3x your paycheck, this podcast is for you.
Welcome to today's episode of Career Headquarters, the most comprehensive career podcast. Hi, Sawan. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good as well. And we have a very interesting topic today. And it is what to do when you and your boss don't get along.
Oh,
Big one.
yeah. I hope this is going to get some views.
It definitely will. This is something I don't relate to at all because I have a wonderful boss.
Yeah.
But most professionals, not most, but many professionals aren't as fortunate as I am. So this remains a large pain point.
I'm paying her to say that.
No, it's not. Okay. So even if you're amazing at what you do, if you don't get along with your boss, it kind of sucks the joy out of your professional life. So to begin with, does your boss's opinion of you really matter? And how should one think of a boss and how should one treat their boss?
Well, yeah, I mean, again, in a nutshell, a boss's opinion really matters. See, this is someone who has a tremendous amount of influence and authority over your career, right? You are in the subservient position. And if you fit well into their mission, okay, then you're the right employee for them. But if you are not able to fit into that mission, then things can go off track very quickly. Your career can die very silently and very fast, right? If that match doesn't happen. Because see, the truth is that your boss is going to be either the biggest supporter or the biggest roadblock in your career. Especially as you start your career. Because see, learning at that stage is very accelerated. And that is the first benchmark, the first standard that you will be exposed to, in how to lead, what kind of an interaction that person is having with you, how they are grooming you and training you.
Leaves an impression on you.
Absolutely. And your actual experience at that point is very little. You've been hired because of the promise of the potential that you represent. So, you're that sponge that is taking everything in. So, a boss's opinion is really going to matter. And the way you treat them is the art of managing up, right? So, to be able to do this well, you have to be very open-minded, very flexible. Your ego must be fairly healthy. You cannot start taking things personally. There is a lot of weight to the fact that it doesn't matter if the boss is an idiot or not, that they are still a boss, right? So this is somebody who can exert a lot of control over your career. It's important to show that person that you're there to fit in. You're not there to rock the boat. You're not there to create trouble. That's the only way you can manage up also in the right way. You want to bring some changes of scope and role and have access to the best positions. All of that will only happen if you're in their good books. So, this is a very essential thing to get right, especially early on in your career.
All right. So, say you're in a situation when you don't get along with your boss. How do you figure out if you're the problem or the boss is the problem? And if you're in that situation, how can you take the responsibility and resolve the situation?
This is a great real world problem because a lot of people land up in positions where they are misaligned. They don't have the leadership skill, but they've been put into a role where they have to manage others. And so if a boss is treating you in a manner that is harsh, or they are getting overtly personal, or they're insulting you, embarrassing you, acting out of a vengeance, all of this is someone. It's a very clear indication that this is someone who does not have the leadership skills required, and yet they are in this position where they exert a tremendous amount of control over your career. So bosses have to enjoy, leaders or somebody who supervises you has to enjoy that level of trust. That means that their perception of the boss must be that this is a person with integrity. Their intent is clear. The agenda that they have for you is in your best interest. They also have the capabilities to be able to groom you and train you. And they have a good track record. The results that they've produced with teams in the past is also something, that is in the right place. And they are aligned with the objectives of helping you grow your career, right? So to really examine if you are the problem or the boss's problem, you need the skill of introspection and reflection, right? It goes back to your personal development.
Yes.
But please understand here, you are being asked to evaluate a situation that you have not experienced before, because your growth is only going to occur on the boundary of support and challenge. So if you go to the gym and lift weights, it's at the very end, those last 2 or 3 reps where your muscle is refusing to lift the weight. But that's where it's growing, right? Now, you haven't experienced that failure before, right? So that is what you're being asked to evaluate. In that situation that became where you were failing, where it became too difficult, were you the problem or was the boss the problem? Was the boss pushing you unfairly, too hard, beyond any limit? Or was the problem you? You were stuck and you were not willing to take on that challenge, or you had a resistance up against it. So this is where, a career coach can be very helpful because they've walked that journey before you.
Yes.
They have an understanding of, looking at all of the variables in a situation and being able to help you that this is not you being treated unfairly. This is you having resistance to growing personally, right? So this is not something that you can evaluate just by looking at the situation on the surface. A lot needs to be dug through to come to this understanding if you were the problem or the boss is the problem. And again, everybody looks at the world, through the lenses that color their view. So it's hard to make this assessment objectively if you're involved with that situation. So it really helps to get the right counsel in such a situation.
All right. So if you're in a situation in which you're dealing with a harsh or an unreasonable boss, what do you do?
The first thing I would say is create an opportunity for yourself to have an honest heart-to-heart discussion. And this is not easy to do because if you're dealing with a harsh and inflexible, a boss that is just being unreasonable and too difficult with you, they are going to block that opportunity. So it's not going to be easy to get that opportunity.
They're not approachable.
They are not approachable. The second thing here is a lot of people who get the opportunity don't know what to do in that opportunity. They don't know how to have that heart-to-heart discussion, right? So that is one challenge with resolving the situation with a harsh or a very unreasonable or difficult boss. The second thing is, please understand, because it is your responsibility eventually to resolve it, because that person can be unreasonable, it will not impact or affect them as much as it will impact and affect you. So don't fall for the fallacy that the world is a fair place. The world is not a fair place, right? It would be great if the world was a fair place, but that is not so. So understand that you have to learn how to win even when you lose. Haar ke jeetna, that's what we say. And for that, understand that an apology goes a long way, right? So if it's a minor issue, an apology will go a long way. Understand the overall dynamics, why the boss is holding you accountable. And it is very possible that they are being unreasonable. But what would benefit your career there, right? As long as it's not a moral failing of character, right? If the boss is asking somebody to do something unethical, then yes, take a stand for yourself by all means. Don't become a victim to a situation that becomes irreparable. But do examine, did you make them look bad somewhere? Did you not clear the air? There's a lot of people, for these minor grievances, they don't clear the air. They let time do the healing. But time is not able to heal those wounds because you have not addressed those wounds, right? Time will heal if you have addressed those wounds. Have you been unnecessarily political somewhere? Have you made things difficult for them by saying the wrong things to the wrong people? Because all of this can have long-term harm. It can do long-term harm to your career. Your productivity in such an environment is going to go down. Your creativity is going to go down. You're only creative when you think outside the box, when you exhaust conventional ways of thinking. That's only going to happen in an environment that engages you, where you feel on a mission, not in an environment where you're feeling insulted. Because see, what happens is when someone treats you harshly, or somebody who embarrasses you, your ears will shut down. You're not listening to them at that point.
You want to react.
You are reacting, you've been made to feel small, you've been made to feel bad. So the first thing is, have a heart to heart. The second thing is, if that is not coming about, then there may be an opportunity to approach your boss's boss or get HR involved. But please understand, this strategy also does not come without risk.
Yes.
It goes back to how easy or difficult is it to replace you. If you're difficult to replace, then the boss's boss will listen, or the chances that they will listen are greater. HR will listen. But if that's not the case, you will not be heard, and you will feel even more compromised, and you may start getting bitter towards all opportunities. So, it's very important to have a certain level of awareness in place, that this does not represent every single working environment. But if you can make it easy to get attention on your matter, and that only happens when you're excellent at what you do. If you're great at what you do, you will be heard even in unfair situations. So the way to deal with such a boss is address the problem first with them. If you can resolve it, if you know how to have a heart to heart and you can resolve it, wonderful. But if you cannot, then you may want to approach the boss's boss or approach the HR department. But again, if these are, departments that the HR is not empowered, then you will not be heard. They won't do anything about it. And if if your boss's boss is going to have difficulty replacing you, then you will be heard. Otherwise, you won't be heard.
Yes.
If they have difficulty replacing the person you are talking about, or they are not personally developed themselves, because see, they need to hold this conversation confidential, and not throw you under the bus. You've gone to them for a resolution. And that is what, a lot of people find, is that the environment is so political that the person that they are appealing to is already corrupt.
Yes.
So even if they approach the boss's boss, they don't find the resolution. In those cases, it is best to move on, because you will not be able to change the culture of the organization. Your scope doesn't allow it, and the wall, the resistance to change is too great. The system is too formed. People who have direct control over the culture will also struggle to change it. So if you don't have control as an employee and you're trying to change it, you're just going to be in for a really rude shock. So in those situations, it is best to move on. In a lot of situations, however, it does work out. It does work out when you go and address it. Some bosses, because of work pressure, because of hard, aggressive targets, they can start, getting short, lashing out at their employees in times of stress. And it's an opportunity that they are growing through themselves. So as long as the person has that awareness, to some degree that can be permitted, because they will do it better the next time. This is how systems grow. Again, every system has to drive itself towards failure to grow. And if you have that longer term view in mind, then your ability to deal with such systems and grow yourself, your career, and everybody around you is going to be much superior.
All right. So everything that you mentioned, the underlying key is your personal development.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. So is developing a more personal relationship with your boss beneficial?
Can be. Keep in mind that they are the boss, that they are allowed to joke more than you are, right? They can have one or two inappropriate saying of something. They shouldn't do anything inappropriate. That would absolutely not be permissible. But if they'll end up saying something that is a little on the edge or a little out there, they are a little more permitted than you are. At the same time, if the boss values you and you're starting to show care for the person and the relationship, then the boss will be grateful for that. I used to take a tremendous amount of personal care of a lot of things for my bosses. And just showing that, it's a wonderful dynamic, because your boss knows that you're a caring person. And my bosses were caring people. So they were teaching me how to care. It's just a certain amount of sensitivity and a certain amount of awareness that you have, that you show in the relationship. And, working abroad, I could see that I have that in a much greater degree than a lot of other people. That empathy is what led to greater opportunities, greater productivity. As long as you keep the baseline professional, because please understand, from their perspective, they can be friendly, but they cannot be your friend, because they have to take work from you. And for that, it is very important that there be a professional relationship, to the degree where if at some point they have to hold you by the ear, you're not going to take it slightly or
Yes.
lightly, right? So with all of that in mind, a relationship can help, a more personal relationship can help, but you at all times have to maintain a certain decorum, or have the sensitivity that even though the relationship has certain personal elements to it, you have that understanding that when you're given constructive feedback, you know how to take it. In those situations, if that awareness is with you, then having a personal relationship can only add. It can be a wonderful, nice to have for both parties. That can work very well.
And you spend so much time with your boss, so it's important.
I was traveling with my boss. I was joking around with him. We would work very hard, put in the late nights together. It was a very rewarding relationship. There were times when I could see that, late in the evening, he's starting to have a migraine, and I would bring the pills to say, "Did you take your medicine?" Now, I am in no capacity responsible for bringing him his medicine. But the fact that I care is something that I know was very deeply appreciated. But my competence was not bringing him his medicine. My competence was doing exceptional work and producing strong results. So, on that basis, with that already in place, when I showed that I care even for the human being, not just for the role that he plays in my life, it was a wonderful nice to have, and it brought us even closer. It allowed me over even greater influence and trust over company matters and strategy and direction, and people would listen to what I had to say because of that relationship. And I knew that person always had my back. So that's kind of what I was trying to say earlier as well.
All right. Okay. So, how can a professional evaluate their manager? And also, what to do when you get started with a new boss?
I would say ask questions. See, an interview is an opportunity to ask those questions. But a lot of people go into the interview feeling timid. They've done no preparation or very little preparation, and employees feel that they are going to be grilled or roasted in that session. It's like three people asking you questions and the spotlight is on you. People can feel very nervous. They can feel intimidated in such sessions. So the first thing is turn that into a meeting. At the
Yes.
end of the day, it's just a conversation. And to be able to understand what your manager is going to be like, your supervisor is going to be like, ask questions. So if you ask them a question like, what are the top 3 qualities you look for in a candidate? You'll start to come to understand their mindset. If you ask them what is their leadership style, what is their management style. See, what you are also trying to ask is, will you and I get along? Right?
Yes.
You're showing that it is important to you. Now, the onus of getting along will fall onto you because you're joining them. They are under no obligation to change because you have arrived.
Yes.
Right? You want to understand their pet peeves. You want to understand, is there something that I must absolutely not do? What bothers them? Something, for example, a couple things that bother me as a boss is when somebody is going to give me a very long, drawn out explanation, a long story explaining what happened, why it happened, how it happened, all of that. Bosses mostly have those experiences. They have already crossed that floor in the total building. So
Yes.
they already understand. They'll be able to pick up a lot more from what you're saying. So crisp communication is something that I value. A second thing that I really value is closing the loop with me. If I've given a task or an assignment, or if I'm talking about, I want you to resolve this. After it is resolved, get back to me, because please understand, I have a limited amount of space in my head too, and for me to be able to forget what I've assigned to you will only happen if you're closing the loop with me, right? Otherwise, I have to make a mental note of it or a written note of it and come and check with you. So people who get back and close the loop, yes, acknowledge you gave me this, here's what I'm going to do about it, and I will get back to you by midday tomorrow and this will be done. And then they close the loop with you. That's phenomenal. So these are two of my pet peeves, if you will.
So you follow up with the boss. The boss shouldn't have to follow.
Correct. And my expectation from the teams that have worked for me, the reason I'm able to expect this is because I offered this to my bosses. See, the chain between a supervisor and a subordinate is an unbroken chain. To be a great supervisor, you have to have been a good
Great.
subordinate, right? So all of these are the things that we learn as we climb, multiple levels in our careers, in our professions. If you have an opportunity to talk to their direct reports, do so. This is not easy. You really need a lot of context for them to say what the boss is like,
Yes.
especially when you're starting out. There are ways to do it, and our SPT model builds all of those ways in, because you have to have no conflict of interest to be able to get
Yes.
real time, opinion of the people who work there for that individual. And you need to put that context in place for that to happen.
You even provide templates and you
Yes.
teach
So
it
we have
exactly.
exactly. So we have the methodology of how to be able to do that. But the idea here is, especially starting out, you need to have 5 very important conversations with your boss. The first conversation is, how do you diagnose the problem? What's the problem, right? And the idea is not to stifle your thinking, but to get that perspective. The more you agree on what the problem is, the more likely it is you will agree on the solution. So, you can bring a different perspective to what the problem may be, and a good boss will allow for that. But at least by discussing this, you will know how the boss is seeing the challenge. The second conversation starting out you need to have is, what is expected of you in terms of what will make you successful in this role? What will they consider the definition of success to be? Once you understand that, then you know what KPIs you are chasing. May they be hard or may they be soft. The third conversation is to understand how they want you to report. Do they want a daily phone call? Do they want a written report? They want a weekly write-up? They want a monthly summary? They may want all of these things,
Yes.
in a formal manner, in an informal manner. So you have to fit into their mission, and that's why this is an important discussion to have. The fourth discussion here is, the resource conversation. What do you need to be successful in that role? Time resources, people resources, financial resources. Because please understand, let's say you're going to build sales for them pan India, and you say, I need a team of a dozen people to do this. And they say, well, we can only provide 4 right now. Now that's going to impact the timeline over which you will be able to achieve that target, right? So having this resource conversation is very important. And the fifth conversation you need to have is the personal development conversation. If you are successful, what's the next step for you? Now, please understand, only have this conversation where you're 90% done with the previous project or the previous assignment and the finish line is in sight. A successful crossing of the finish line is in sight. That is where this fifth conversation becomes very impactful, right? It gets the boss also thinking, what next for this performing employee? So these are 5 conversations you need to have starting out. And the reason they are important is because when you're starting in a new role or a new position, or you've been promoted, that can be a very stressful time, because everybody is trying to figure you out, right? Everybody is trying to understand that by this new person arriving, how is my workload going to change? What does this change mean for me?
Yes.
What does their arrival mean for me? And your initial success or your initial failure in a role is the best indicator of your overall success or your overall failure in the role.
Yes.
Good bosses know how to pad and cushion that journey when you start out. So you can ask questions to understand. You can follow them on social media. You can look up all of their accounts. You're not spying on them. I mean, the idea is to come to understand, have they posted what teams they like, what sports they like, where did they last vacation,
All part of the
their
soft
likes,
data research.
their dislikes, their political views, if they've posted any. Starts to give you an idea of who that individual is, because this person is going to play a big role in your life. So,
All right. So since we spoke about the SPT model and soft data research and all of that, if a professional who's watching this wants to get started on the journey to accelerating their career with you, what can they do?
I would suggest attend our masterclass, and you will find the link to attend it on our Instagram handle, or you can send us an email at connect@sawankapoor.com. But the best way would be to come and understand the framework, because once you understand what the system is capable of doing, then it's very easy for you to make the decision to say, this is something I want. Please understand that the person working with us is the product here, right? So if you work the system will work for you. And the more senior you are, the more difficult you are to coach, because your own intelligence will get in your way. You've done some right things and that has produced some success. So if you're at a salary level of, 75 lakhs, a crore, 1.5 crores, 2 crores, somewhere there, then please understand that is a successful level to be at in your career. But that is not the same level of success as a 10 crore salary or a 15 crore salary. Now, these are very high numbers. Only someone who has walked that journey can coach you, because they have walked the journey when the salary was 30,000 rupees a month, 1 lakh rupees a month, 5 lakh rupees a month, 10 lakh rupees a month, and into the bigger numbers. So, the more senior you are, the more difficult it becomes to coach you. And a coach is not a paid best friend. They are not someone who will patronize you. They are going to help you face the limitations that are holding you back, because they have the method to be able to then walk you through those limitations. There could be times when you don't like your coach at all, but they're playing a very important role in your personal growth. That coach who is telling you to go on even when your muscles are failing and it's paining, lactic acid is building up and they are hurting, they are playing a positive role in your life, even though you don't like it at that
Yes.
point. So come attend our masterclass and understand what the framework is about, so that you can see that the industry that you come from does not matter. The years of experience you have does not matter. You could be entry level, mid career, or a senior level professional. And the function that you belong to, again, does not matter. You could be in sales or operations or finance or information technology, HR, any of the functions. So come and experience that, and that would be the best way to start.
All right, Sam, thank you so much. I think in this episode you've addressed a very large pain point, and hopefully it's given people the courage to overcome any situation that they're in.
Yes, I hope for everyone who's facing a difficult boss, maybe the boss is unreasonable or harsh, or maybe they are just threatened by you. They are insecure because you're really good at what you do. Please understand, this is not the dead end. There are answers to such situations. So if you come and engage, that's where you will find some of the solutions.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Career Headquarters, the most comprehensive career podcast dedicated to building exceptional careers. If you enjoyed this conversation, please share this with someone you think would benefit from the ideas and the insights shared on this episode. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on Spotify, Apple, Google, Overcast, Castro, or Breaker. If you want to learn more about building an extraordinary career for yourself, I invite you to come attend my free Power Up Your Career live workshop. In this workshop, I will teach you the step-by-step process of landing your dream job in less than 90 days. The link to register is in the description below, and I will see you live at the workshop.